Hello, Lea.
Hello, Elvin.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Lea Jerlagić, difficult to pronounce, but that's my last name. I live in Bosnia. I'm an artist and an art teacher.
What inspired you to focus on painting naked lovers?
Well, let me just rephrase it a bit. I would say erotic art, and I usually explain it before continuing talking about it. Erotic is different than sexual. It has specific nuances. And actually, what inspired me to go in that direction are the teachings from the Far East, mostly Taoistic and Tantric teachings, which are very beautiful, very spiritual, but they don't exclude the physical contact between lovers.
Do you aim to explore that specific themes through your paintings, or do you want to explore something else?
Like what?
Curvature of a human body, for example, the muscles, the whole plastic anatomy of it. I'm curious about that too.
Yes, I'm very interested in the shape of the body. I'm also interested in possibilities of human body because I also practice yoga myself for years now. And I really like these unusual shapes that the body can get into. And also in these more erotic artworks, when there are two lovers, or no more than that, intertwined. I'm very interested in these shapes that are created from two bodies.
Have you ever seen contemporary dancers, ballet dancers, and explored that kind of a movement?
It's very interesting that you mentioned that. I would say you have good intuition. My master thesis were on contemporary dance. I was dancing at the time when I did it.
How do you convey the emotional connection between these lovers or these erotic movements in your artwork?
For example, also there are a lot of Eastern teachings coming from Abhinavagupta from India that also speak a lot about emotions. And also something that is very important, and that is the state of an artist while creating. And as we know, you also studied. So, for example, when we do a woodcut and we spend a lot of time cutting this wood, the state of our mind and emotions is somehow transferred into those curvatures, those cuts that we make. So it is similar in drawing. So I have to be in a specific state. Then comes the face of a lover. Because let's say if you do erotic art and you put some, I don't know, crazy faces, loud screams, it can slide a bit towards something that can look vulgar. But if you aim to show a peace, serenity, or let's say, especially for a woman, surrender, then it changes completely the picture.
Is erotism a surrendering?
I won't say only, but there's a lot of surrender.
Touche. Do you only paint or draw, or do you do woodcuts? Can you tell us a little bit about your techniques?
Thank you for that question. I really love talking about technique, but not many people like listening me.
Yeah, but this is Immortal Art Podcast. Everybody who's listening to this podcast is here to learn about artistic processes and techniques of other artists and art history.
So then I'm also grateful to your listeners. So it goes like this. During my studies in Bosnia, I quit a bit and went to China. And in China, I studied Chinese woodcut. When I came back, the thing that I brought in China was Chinese paper, Chinese tools, and tea, nothing else. Since then on, I'm experimenting with this technique a lot. It is not staying in the frame of a woodcut. So it is a woodcut. And then I was drawing over it. Recently, I started painting over it. So the final is a combination of a woodcut, sometimes collage, painting, and drawing. Ink also I use a lot.
Is there any symbolism in depicting lovers?
Yes, there is a lot of symbols, not these typical ones, like let's say a cross means this or that. Two lovers, man and a woman, because my art is exclusively dealing with male-female relationship and male-female forms. So this combination of two lovers in Eastern art represents the balance of two principles that create everything, which would be the energy, a woman, and the consciousness, a man. In Eastern art, they usually use in Sanskrit, they use word lingam, which represents the male genitalia, penis, but not only that, also the idea of consciousness staying erected upwards, while there is a feminine shape that is called yoni, also representing female genitalia, but more than that, also like this principle of feminine. So two lovers unite also present or symbolize these two principles that eventually in spiritual teaching leads to transcendence and balance.
So you spoke about Eastern cultures and Eastern philosophy, but which artist or any kind of artist and art movements have influenced your style?
The interesting thing is that, for example, in these ancient scriptures and drawings that I can find from India and, for example, temples in Nepal or in Taoistic teachings, there are no names of the artists. It is completely different. It is the most important is the picture that is created and not the name of an artist. So these representations are mostly anonymous. But also, although I like teachings that come from India, aesthetics are not my favorite. For aesthetics, I dive more into Japan, but also in the European art. It's a combo.
What are the most challenging aspects of painting lovers?
There are a lot of challenges, not only painting, but presenting, I would say, erotic art. Sex doesn't sell, at least not in the form when it is connected with spirituality. It is quite difficult to, for example, Instagram ban my profile immediately because they think I want to present porn or something else. Also, with some galleries, I have challenges, and then they find a way how to keep me there and promote my work and not to be banned. So there are a lot of challenges. There are not so many challenges in the creative process because I'm very interested in it. I'm interested, as I said, in human bodies, different positions, how they can be translated into visual forms. So with this, I have a lot of fun, but with presentation, I have a lot of challenges.
I'm very curious how the viewers typically react to your paintings, especially in Sarajevo and especially in Bosnia.
Well, actually, Bosnia was quite kind to me.
Oh, we are changing.
Yes, definitely. Actually, I got very positive feedback and people could understand because although Bosnia has a lot of challenges, many people are open for this more spiritual view upon the life. So this helped a lot. For example, from different countries, I get pretty strange commissions that I rejected eventually, but yes, so I can see how they perceive. For Bosnia, I got quite a good understanding.
I was curious because I had a friend here in Sweden who was painting his girlfriend naked while she was doing a striptease for him. Few feminists made him destroy his painting. I'm wondering, did you encounter not maybe feminists, but some religious groups who are having issues with sexuality, like all religious groups?
Well, honestly, not really. Maybe Muslims are not so open towards the general visual representation of the body, but to understand, for me, it was not difficult to reach some of these people. People who are religious but more open to research, well, they are quite open also to understand what I'm trying to convey. We are all erotic creatures. We have kids, we have lovers, and I think people can relate to my work through their own experiences.
How do you approach the diversity of body types in your work? Some people are built differently, some people can move differently. So, how do you approach that?
Thank you for that question as well, because for me that is important in today's world where we are facing a lot of plastics and many, especially women, decide to change their bodies in this way. I really like the naturalness of a healthy body. I believe female body is more beautiful if a bit voluptuous, but you will see in my works mostly. I had the models because I wanted to see different shapes of the body. And I'm also lucky enough that I work on Art Academy where I teach drawing and painting nude class. So I get to see many different shapes, many different bodies. So today, sometimes I'm drawing from memory, sometimes from models that I find around. Sometimes I use my own body as reference. So yes, this diversity is very important.
How do you balance between eroticism, these classical ideals of human body, and straight out pornography?
I believe the difference is huge. First, it starts from the intention of the creator and it leaves the beginning imprint on the work, being it movie or a painting or a drawing or whatever. And then it continues through development of this artwork. The positions I try to convey and the states that these lovers are in and the expressions they have on their faces and the colors I use, well, I pay a lot of attention while I choose them. Then I try to build this more erotic atmosphere in my artworks. But I also believe if somebody wants to sell a good porn, also pay a lot of attention to make it as good porn and not too erotic because people don't search for that when they go to buy a porn movie.
What about this Western classical ideals and Eastern, little bit softer approach to the body?
It is something I am constantly researching because, for example, what comes from Japan, and I personally like it very much, is the simplicity of a line, this vibrancy of a line, but also flatness of a figure, so like, or a nude, which is completely different in the Western art. All is volume. Bodies are shaped as if they are sculptures themselves. I like drawing, but I noticed recently it's not so rational decision made in advance, but it is through the work. I noticed that recently I'm going more towards this more shaping of the body as done in Western art, but more expressive than this flatness that maybe before was my main way of presenting a body.
Do you have a personal connection to the subjects you paint?
Yes, of course. So first I'll go with the idea and topic I'm trying to represent. It comes from my inner search. I was introduced to yoga when I was in my early 20s. I was always interested in yoga, meditation, and when I stumbled upon Tantra, I was very much interested in this. I'm not using intentionally word sexual because it is different. Erotic has different nuances because we are not taught these things in schools, you know. It's like it's a huge part of our being is this erotic persona that we all carry inside, and then we have no place to learn from. And then I started reading books, started attending some classes, and from my inner practice actually grew this need to show it in the painting.
Can you talk us through your creative process from concept to finished piece?
I will try because I won't say it's always the same. So I will say a few things. Sometimes can come while I meditate, can come a certain idea that I would like to represent. Sometimes I dive into books and then I research. For example, I really like in some Chinese, they call it sexual manuals for so-called Yellow Emperor. There are some very beautiful texts when they show, let's say, 8 positions that would heal an 8 illnesses for men and for women. I would take all of the 8 positions and I would try to show them. And I would also write, and I post it online, I would write the words about these teachings. So this was important to me. In the beginning, we mentioned this surrender of a woman when she feels safe. So can be a state of this surrendering that inspires me. And then I aim to show this in the next work. Or can come through a certain color. This is very vibrant for me in the moment. I feel connected. And then from the color, I would build up the work, or from the line, or from sketches. I like to sketch a lot. When I travel, for example, in Barcelona, I like the balconies very much. I wrote about that on my blog a bit. From these sketches of the balconies, I would search for the ways how to put lovers there. And so really, ways are many.
I noticed that you use mostly up to 3 to 4 colors. I want to know why. How do you choose what color to use? What role does color play in your paintings? And why?
That's interesting. This affinity towards certain nuances or colors changes. So if you look at the works from certain period, maybe they are predominantly pinkish, let's say. And then there was a period when they were like done with turquoise. Definitely there are periods when certain nuances dominate. It comes from inside of me. Inside of me, my personal emotional and intellectual research and my personal state of mind, spirit, I think it comes from there. And also can depend on the season. This I noticed. For example, I have certain works that I am doing mostly during summer. And then when winter comes, I cannot do them. It's just not fitting. And then I shifted completely new works. I started this winter, but I cannot do them now. So they are waiting. And I think I will finish this series next autumn and winter. And then I will present them in one exhibition, hopefully.
When you paint or draw, are there any specific stories or narratives behind each paintings that you want to tell to the audience or to yourself?
Can be. For example, these new works I just started working on is inspired by Japanese female divers. It's completely new, so not many works are posted online on this topic, but there are beautiful stories about these women. They say that tradition could exist longer than 2,000 years. Few hundred years ago, they were diving in shallow waters completely nude. Of course, I'm inspired with this openness towards nudity that Japanese had, but also the connection with ocean that these women had. But today they wear wetsuits. So yes, this is the new topic. And of course, there are narratives and stories behind it.
How do cultural perceptions of nudity, of erotism, of sexuality, of everything in between influence your work? How does it influence the world around us?
I'm influenced by the teachings more than by reactions of people. I am lucky enough that I don't live only from selling my paintings, although I also sell them, but I'm not depending on that. So I have certain freedom. I can stay true to the ideas I really passionately wish to convey further. Of course, not everybody is interested and they don't have to be. But the ones who are interested, they find something in my artworks and it gives them some different kind of food. This is important for me very much.
I have a few more questions for you. I painted a lot of nudes in academies at my own studio or home or wherever I painted them. I want you to explain to the audience how much respect and consent is involved in that. I want you to tell me from female perspective.
Yes, thank you. I had quite a few of my friends modeling. I usually ask friends who are interested in the similar way as I am in the topics of eros. I'm not unfamiliar to them. And the ones who agree to model for me are really close friends. And some were even very open, even to show their faces as they are. And some agree, but they want me to change the face or height or depends really. I am deeply grateful for this because it is not the typical artist hiring model relationship. It is a friend who wish together to convey something that is important for us both. I would say that the models are co-creators of my artwork. Of course, in their own way. They maybe don't hold a brush. By being there, by offering themselves, they actually participate a lot.
What philosophical principle is foundation of your work as a feminist artist, as a female artist, as an artist who dwells into eroticisms?
I would never call myself a feminist artist because today there are a lot of ideas that are immediately attached to you when you say feminist. So I'm not tapping into these areas. I am a female artist. And what would be a philosophical background that keeps my work? It is this idea of constant refinement. Refinement of sexuality is eroticism. Refinement of character can lead to refinement of emotion. So this is what I'm focused on constantly in my work. I am for balance between male and female. So that's also one of the pillars of my work. Constant search for balance and harmony.
Tao, huh?
Yes, calligraphy as well.
How come?
There is a beautiful work, but I don't remember the author when he explains the painting with calligraphic brush. So it said it is like juggling on a wire, and there has to be a constant movement. And that is how balance is created.
Art should talk about politics, but shouldn't be politicized. I'm curious about your work. This narrative of addressing intersection of gender, race, quality, sexuality, and any other identities. How do you approach that to your work?
My main focus is on this balance between male, female, and this symbolic representation of the consciousness and energy and so on. The teachings that comes mostly from Taoism and Tantra. And I'm aware of different tendencies. I don't judge them. I just don't have interest. That's it. It is not coming from inside of me. And I cannot create like that.
How does your narrative address the concept of equality and equity in context of eroticism?
Well, my work is mostly concerned spiritual inner world of lovers and erotic. So I'm not really researching that in my work. For me, in the themes that I am researching, equality is quite important, but equality in my work doesn't mean sameness. So still, there are different roles for men and for women. They're different, but still they can be equal in the value. That's something that's quite important for me. As far as I'm familiar, equity in the way of income, there's no difference between men and women. At the university where I work, University of Sarajevo, as far as I know, we have a lot of women employees.
So there is no difference in the pay gap in Bosnia?
Between men and women, these areas which I know, I didn't notice. Depending on the position, of course, but my friend and me, we are both assistant professors and we both have the same salary. He's a man, I'm a woman. Like, there's no difference whatsoever.
How does your work, especially with erotic art, critique contemporary culture, media, and societal norms? And how do you feel about it?
I am more focused on expressing something I believe in. Of course, I am aware that society is quite diverse, but I believe there is richness in this diversity. I like that there are different approaches. I believe that's very valuable.
What is the point of art?
I knew you're going to ask me that because I heard it on your podcast. And I was really thinking, like, what am I going to tell Eldin about this? Because for me, it is so complex to dive into discussion about the point of art. But if I summarize the essence, I would keep to the idea I mentioned earlier, and that is this constant refinement.
How would you like to be remembered?
Actually, recently I applied to one exhibition or whatever, I don't know how they call it, but it was called Leave a Legacy. So I pondered about this one. Well, you never know how things will turn because history can switch, and then things that were ideals, like we know it from ex-Yugoslavia, things that were ideals are today considered something very wrong. I'm aware of that. I would like to be remembered as an artist who never gave up on creating artworks.
Very beautiful. If you would have a beer or dinner or chat, any historical figure, artist from the past, any period of time, characters from a book, who would it be?
I like one poet very much. I like his poetry and I like his amazing mind. It's Hafiz. I would like to spend some time near this man. We don't even have to talk. It would be enough for me.
Okay, how people can find you?
They can easily reach me on social media. Instagram is most active. Facebook is the second one. I'm quite open to start conversation. I'm also eager to stop if it goes in strange directions. Working on with erotic art, it's quite a delicate subject. So, but if there are some people who are truly interested and serious to talk about it, I'm quite open and easily reachable.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Eldin.
I wish you all the best and have a wonderful time in Sarajevo in Bosnia and on Academy as well.
Thank you.
This concludes this episode. I want to thank you for joining and listening. I hope we inspired you. I hope you learned something.